Edward Brown, host of the Best of Investing, here to remind you to tune in this week on Saturday at 8 p.m. Our guest is going to be Tom Dunkel. You're not going to want to miss the show. That's the Best of Investing on Saturday at 8 p.m.
You bet. Thank you so much for having me. How did I get started? That's always a fun story. I like telling that one. So I got started thinking that I'd invented notes. I got started back in 2005 and six. I was doing fix and flip, and I enjoyed doing that. As the market started to turn, I got stuck with one property that I ended up being a landlord on, and I figured out very quickly that I really liked the cash flow as being a landlord, but there was very little else that I enjoyed about being a landlord. It was yeah, it was a lot of work, and I just thought, "Man, why do people do this? This doesn't seem like a very good thing at all." But that's kinda how that got going, and it was a good primer for me to get into notes eventually then. Uh, Fall of 2008, my old partner, he had networked into a group of investors who had bought a portfolio property, mostly centered in the Midwest in, kind of the spring of 2007, right at the height of the market. So by the fall of 2008, they were in full panic mode. What do we do with this stuff? It was supposed to be a quick flip out of the transaction and it just didn't go that way. Yeah, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, right. Nice. That's perfect. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes. So it's we just got it started. We're just gathering funds right now. Once it's all fully funded, it's just a $5 million fund, which 10 years ago I would have said, "Man, that sounds like a ton of money." And now I'm doing things, I'm like, I'm not sure that's enough, but okay, that's okay. We'll do what we got. Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we're concentrating more on performing than non-performing, just because it's a lot easier to manage. It's far more predictable than the non-performers, and it allows us to make sure that our investors get quarterly payouts. So once somebody invests, it's going to take us a little bit of time to get that, spent and make sure we've got it that's performing on that. But we're talking first second quarter we start making payments. So we do it as just a flat 8%. And so we do quarterly distributions, 2% per quarter. And then it's, again, just easy, predictable. You know what you're going to get and when you're going to get it. Yes. That's actually kept by me. So as
Gotcha.
long as my investors are taken care of, if I
Yeah.
can stumble into a great deal, then good for me. But
Yeah.
that's
It's,
it.
it's interesting. Our funds are actually very, very similar
Yeah.
because we pay 8.5%, very close to your
Okay.
8%.
Yeah.
We pay it on a monthly basis. You pay it quarterly, but
Yeah.
when we first started our fund, we were originally paying a yield plus part of the profits, but it
Yeah.
got very, very confusing for the accountants to figure out how much the profits were.
Yes.
And so we said, you know what, let's just pay them just a flat fee. Tell you what, we got to cut to our first commercial break here. Don't have time to ask the trivia question. We're going to ask that on the next one. Stay with
Sounds
us.
good.
The best of investing. Welcome back to the best of investing. Edward Brown here, along with Nathan Turner of Diversified Mortgage Expo, and also let's see here, you're earnestinvesting.com. There we go. Okay, so where are you concentrating on buying your notes, both performing and non-performing?
So I like property values and balances under 200,000. So that being the case, they tend to be kind of on the eastern half of the country. So think
Yeah.
like Michigan down to Texas and pretty much everything in between.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. Is there any uh, on the discounted ones that are performing?
Yeah.
What kind of yield do you like to shoot for on those?
Yeah, for the performers, I'm buying mostly seller finance paper,
They
and
are. Okay.
because it allows me to get a better yield. So I
Yeah.
target at least to 12%.
Okay.
Currently, we're over that. We're about 13 and a half, but
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're shooting for.
But now, okay. So let me ask you how the marketing works on that.
Sure.
How do you find seller carryback notes? Because that's a little different than
It is.
hedge funds and banks.
Yeah. So I took over the Diversified Mortgage Expo because I've recognized over the years how valuable networking is, especially at a conference. And I do a podcast actually with a colleague every other week, and we kind of figured out together that a lot of these note creators, the seller finance people, don't know that note buyers exist.
Yeah.
So together, we've part of our podcast and just kind of in our online advertising, we talked about that, and then together with that, we made a special concentration to advertise to note creators to come to Diversified Mortgage Expo because
So then let me ask you then, most of your sellers of those seller carrybacks, they were investors.
right. So rather than targeting just the mom and pops, we're going after those.
Yeah, see that, and that's the thing that we started doing was targeting the mom and pop, but it was getting really expensive with the marketing of
They're hard
that
to find.
versus with you guys. I could see that. Now, are you buying only first mortgages?
Just first. I've always been a first guy. I understand the
Yeah.
seconds, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, and I guess it's a little different when you're buying discounted ones. It really depends on
Yeah.
how big the first is compared to the second.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And what's one of your questions that you wanted us to ask you? How do you approach notes today? Is it just the expo, or
So
you said you're doing the podcast and doing some online stuff too?
yeah, doing podcasts, doing online stuff, doing the expo has been a big push in just finding those that are creating notes. And that's really what we're looking for, and kind of breaking into the groups where they're teaching like sub twos and wraps, and they're teaching creative finance and things like that. So getting in with their crowd, letting them know that, hey, you created this note. Guess what? There's somebody that will buy that note from you if you decide you want to cash out at some point, whether that's now or 5 years from now. But we're here.
Gotcha. And sometimes, it's these guys who are like fix and flipping, and then they're carrying back the note. It depends on what the value is, and they may go, I don't want to take that much of a haircut. On it.
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you do your expo, your Diversified Mortgage Expo?
It's in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's actually coming up here May 31st, June 1st. And we are so excited. We've got a great lineup and just can't wait to put it on again. It's been so much fun.
Wow. How many attendees do you usually get?
So last year we had about 200, and then we expect that to grow to closer to 300 this year.
What do you charge for attendees?
So early bird tickets on sale until April 30th. That's $4.99. After that, up until the day of the conference, it goes up to $5.99.
Okay. And then do you have like sponsors with tables and that sort of thing?
Yeah, sponsors. And, I've been to a lot of conferences over the years, especially note conferences. And it's always fun to go to a conference. It's great to meet people and to get to know new people and hang out with people that you know already. That's all fun. But when I took this over, besides just meeting people and having fun, I want deals to happen.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Between, getting note creators, note buyers together, and then with the vendors, people that you will actually use in your business and that you need, and people that I use is who I've really talked to first and said, hey, I love your service. Come and talk to everybody else about it.
Sure. Well, how much do the vendors pay?
It ranges anywhere from like $2,000 to $7,000, I think, is our top sponsorship.
To have a table and to sell their stuff. Yeah, because I know like FCI would be, one of those kind of guys. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you what, we're going to cut to our commercial break here, and we're definitely going to ask a trivia question this time.
All right.
So before I do, though, I want to make a mention for Palio Restaurant, which is in San Francisco. It was voted by San Franciscans as one of the best restaurants in San Francisco. I've eaten there before. Food is phenomenal. Atmosphere is great. Palio Restaurant, Palio. They're in downtown San Francisco. Okay, so here's our first trivia question on science. And Nathan, if you know the answer, don't say anything until we get back.
All
right. An earthquake that measures 8 on the Richter scale would be how many times stronger than an earthquake that measures 4 on the same scale? All right. That's our trivia question. Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer wins that tanning certificate, which, by the way, is worth about $100. And with the spring time coming and summer, you got to get your tan on. We've all been kind of cooped up here in the cold, and no one's got a tan. So go check them out, Tan Bella Tanning Salon. Okay, again, the trivia question. An earthquake that measures 8 on the Richter scale would be how many times stronger than an earthquake that measures 4 on the same scale? All right. Also want to make a mention here for Integrity Electric. Call them to check out what a Tesla Powerwall can do for you. It's integrityelectric.net. Stay with us. The Best of Investing. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, along with Nathan Turner of Diversified Mortgage Expo. Is that how you want me to? I see that title on your thing, or should we do it? Nathan Turner from earnestinvesting.com. You tell me which one you want me to use for an intro.
That's a tough call. Both.
Okay, we'll do both. How's that?
Yeah. All right. Something for the passive investors, something for the active investors.
There you go. Okay, I like that. All right, our trivia question on science was an earthquake that measures 8 on the Richter scale would be how many times stronger than an earthquake that measures 4 on the same scale? Now you can answer if you know, Nathan. What do you think?
I'm debating between 4 times or 400 times stronger.
You ready for this? It's 10,000 times.
Really?
Yeah, it goes logarithmic. That's why it's such a big difference between 4 and 8.
Okay.
Wow. I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay. So one of the things that he would, we what we do is with our guests, we say, give us a list of questions you want us to ask. So I'm going down the list here. Where do you find deals? Is the question that you had for us.
That's like one of the main questions that anybody asks when you start talking about notes, and they say, wow, that sounds fantastic. Where do you find them? Networking.
Yeah.
Like I said, I went to my first conference, 2009, and I've gone to, I don't know, dozens of conferences since then. That's been my secret sauce, is just going to places where other note investors are. And
have you gone to like Note Expo? Note Expo?
Yeah, Note Expo, Paper Source, Noteworthy, IMN, anything out there that's note related. And then you just start to get to know people. And it's very much relationship based. I know that almost sounds cliche, but it's so true.
No, it absolutely is. Now, how do you do your due diligence? Because, once you meet somebody and they say, yeah, I did this fix and flip property and I took back a note and I want to sell the note. What's the next procedure?
So I would have them send me all the numbers on the note. And that's an interesting education. Listen, I don't really care if it has ground countertops or not. I just want to know what the actual value of the property is. Like whatever upgrades are done, good for you, but I just want to know the value. And then I look at the note numbers, and then especially for the seller finance people, I'm looking at the actual collateral documents. Because a lot of these guys, I love what they're doing, but so often they're not doing it correctly necessarily.
So what do? Do you just pass on the deal, or do you try to go back to the borrower and get them to sign new docs?
Depends on the situation. Some, one or the other. If I know that they've had a good relationship with the borrower and they can, I don't necessarily talk to the borrower beforehand. I probably don't, but I have them, looks like these documents need to be corrected. Are you okay signing something new? Most of the time that doesn't require anything but just new documents. Occasionally we'll have to go and do something to modify the loan itself.
And are there any areas that you stay away from because of the legalities, or like, do you stay away from rural properties, that sort of thing?
I do. Coming up through the non-performing time that we had, I probably am a little more jaded, but I'm always looking at it in the worst case of I'm going to have to take back this property. Yeah. And I want to make sure that I can resell it. So rural properties are tough. The Northeast is a tough area. Their foreclosure laws are really stringent, and just timelines are really long. And so that's
like New York can take a couple of years.
And I've done New York. Yes, it does take a couple of years. And Connecticut, Maine, they're tough states to get a foreclosure done. So I tend to stay away from that area. But there's very few other places. Well, legality wise, then places like Georgia, where it requires a debt license, I stay out of there as well.
Interesting. So do you have to have a special license to buy a note in Georgia?
To hold a note. So I can buy it. It's kind of the prostitute question, right? It's not illegal to be a prostitute, but it's illegal to do prostitute things.
Gotcha. Well, no, the thing is, does that mean that, can't you hold on to the note, but not you hold it? You have it turned over to a servicer?
Even there, Georgia in particular, they've been very sticky on that, and they've made sure that loophole's been closed. So even holding a note in Georgia, they require you to have a debt collector license.
So you have to have a special debt collector license. Interesting. Okay, and it's not worth getting that license?
I don't think so. I really like Georgia as a state to buy notes, honestly. But
you get enough business doing elsewhere, right? So
there's enough other deals, and I would rather not.
Gotcha. Before we cut to a break, how do you get your investor clients? So now we know how do you get the deals by going to networking conferences and stuff like that. But how do you get the investors?
It's a lot of the same kind of thing, networking, but different crowds. When I go to a conference, that's mostly active investors. If I'm looking for clients, for investors, I'm going to like an IRA conference or something like that.
Gotcha. That totally makes sense. Okay. Tell you what, we're going to cut to our next break here. The next
Yeah.
trivia question is, what is the heaviest organ in the human body? Call 888-912-1190. First caller with correct answer wins that tanning certificate, which again was worth about $100. What is the heaviest organ in the human body? All right. I also want to make a mention here for the Tahoe Lakeshore Lodge. It's still skiing season, and they have 200 feet of beachfront property. It's a beautiful hotel. I had a couple of people stay there, come back with raving reviews. Check them out, Tahoe Lakeshore Lodge. All right. Again, we're going to ask the trivia question, and we're going to cut to our break. What is the heaviest organ in the human body? 888-912-1190. First caller with correct answer wins that tanning certificate. Stay with us. The Best of Investing. I'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Edward Brown here, along with Nathan Turner. Our second trivia question: what is the heaviest organ in the human body? Nathan, you know the answer?
Is it skin?
It's funny. That's the largest organ, but
The
it's not the
largest, but not
heaviest.
the heaviest. Okay.
Not the heaviest. It's the liver. And depending upon how much you drink, some are probably heavier than others, All right. So Nathan Turner runs a Diversified Mortgage Expo. How do people get a hold of you if they're interested in either investing with you or selling you notes or going to your expo?
So it's interesting. The expo is kind of a separate thing. So it's two different websites. If you're looking to do active investing and you want to, you're there learning about notes and you want to network with other note investors and things like that, the expo is your best bet. And so that's just that website, diversifiedmortgageexpo.com. There is a link on there actually to get to my other website, earnestinvesting.com. And that's more for the passive investors. People who think this is a great idea, but you know what? I don't have the time or bandwidth to deal with it. Let this guy do it for me.
Now, did you start that Diversified Mortgage Expo yourself, or did you say you bought it out from somebody else?
Yeah, I bought it out. So last year was my first time hosting, but it was actually the 8th annual for the conference itself. And it was started 9 years ago, just about. And it was in the beginning, it's gone through a couple of iterations where it was going like they were doing 2 a year, one in New Jersey, one in California, at different times of year. But when I took it over, I'm like, you know what, it's a ton of work. So we're just going to do it one time a year. And everybody seems to really like Nashville.
Nashville's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. I guess May 31st probably still hasn't gotten too hot yet there.
No, it's pretty good. Last year, yeah, it's decent weather. It's not too hot. And the other thing for me, so I used to live East Coast time. I was in Montreal, and then I would fly to California or Vegas or something, and that's a 3-hour time difference. And I'm like, that's just a killer. So I wanted something either on Central or Mountain time zone so that nobody's out more than 2 hours. And then you're not
very smart. And it's probably reasonably priced, to hold it in Nashville, I would think.
Yeah, Nashville. So something I learned last year that I didn't know, it's actually the bridal shower party.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. You go downtown and there's just a dozen different bridal parties. They have like these bridal shower buses that drive around where they've cut the top off a bus or something like that. And it's wild and it looks like a lot of fun.
They also probably have, like in New Orleans, they have these like you're riding a bicycle, and it's connected to a big drinking thing. It's actually pretty fun looking.
It's wild. It's a lot of fun. But that's not where we're there. We're there to learn, right?
Yes, we are. So give us a couple of success stories and horror stories.
So success stories. Let's go. I really like the non-performers as much as I'm more switching over to performing these days just because it's much easier to manage. But the non-performers are the success stories, really.
Sure.
So here's what we've got. This is a couple of years ago where there's a fellow living in the house. This was in North Carolina, I want to say. And we were trying to help him get refinanced so that he could pay us off, because
Yeah.
if we pay it off early, then our return goes up. So we were trying to get him, able to refinance with his own bank so that he could also
Yeah.
lower the interest rate. He was going from like a 9% with us down to, I think it was 4% at the time. The problem was, when the bank came out to do the appraisal on his house, they saw that his heating system was, I don't know, not up to date enough for them to say okay. So that was the issue, and he said the problem is it costs $11,000 to replace this system.
How much did it cost?
11,000.
Oh, 11,000. Gotcha.
And he's like,
How big was the note that you guys were carrying?
The note was maybe 75,000, somewhere in that range. And so it was, but a big enough ticket for him. He didn't have $11,000.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I get it. But I said, so let me see. What you're telling me is, if you can get this new furnace installed, this new heating system, then the bank will say okay, and you'll get funded, and everybody's happy. I get paid off, and we're all done. I said, yeah, that's true. I talked to the bank and checked it out just to be sure. Sure enough, that was accurate.
And how much was the house worth?
House was probably worth around 100.
Oh wow. Okay, and you're at 70. You're in at 75. That's
that
pretty
was
high.
the unpaid balance. I was into it for maybe 50, something like that.
Oh, gotcha. Perfect. Okay,
so,
got it.
So there's enough equity.
Enough. You know what? Stay with that. We want to hear that story. Okay, we do have to cut to our other break here. All right, here's our. This one's a little bit easier, I think. Okay, which blood type? We're talking science here. This is actually more human science. Which blood type is the rarest in humans? Which blood type is the rarest in humans? Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer wins that tanning certificate. Again, it's worth about $100 from Tan Bella Tanning Salon, with 2 locations in San Francisco and 1 in Marin County. Again, our trivia question: which blood type is the rarest in humans? All right, stay with us. You are listening to The Best of Investing. Don't touch that dial. When we come back, Nathan's going to finish off his story about what happened in North Carolina, and we'll have some closing comments. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, Nathan Turner, Diversified Mortgage Expo. Our third trivia question: which blood type is the rarest in humans? What would that be, Nathan?
Gosh, I don't know. I'm thinking of all the doctor shows I know. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. AB negative.
Okay.
That's the rarest one. That's okay. All right. So now you were talking about, when we cut from break, properties in North Carolina worth about 100,000. Unpaid principal balance was about 75,000. You're into it for 50. Mm-hmm. Your borrower would love to refinance out your 9% note with about a 4% note. However, needs about $11,000 for a new heating system for the bank in order to do this. So that I'm teeing you up with what you had said. Okay, right. So now what's the what happened?
So after I verified all the information, I just said, okay, how about I front you the 11,000? We go ahead and get that new system installed, and then we get this refinanced, and everybody wins. And that's what happened. That's what we ended up doing. So I didn't make any additional money on that 11, but that's fine with me. I made my money on the loan that I was owed. My profit was that difference between the 50 and the 75 that was owed. I got paid back 11. Big deal. And
how much was the bank willing to lend him?
The full 75. They were going to do they were just going to basically.
So how did you get the 11 back then?
How did that work? I must have been included in there.
Anyway, okay.
I forget the details.
Okay. So anyway, happy customer, borrower.
Yeah.
Happy Nathan.
New heating system.
Yeah, new heating system.
Bank gets their loan, so they're happy, and I get paid off, so I'm happy too.
Must have been kind of a rural. But what town or city was it in?
I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look and find it.
Yeah. It must have been, because for $100,000 in North Carolina, it must have been out in the sticks or something. But I get it. We've dealt with stuff like that too.
I want to say
Um,
Salisbury. I don't remember. Anyway,
Southbury. That sounds familiar. Oh no, we've done something in Southbury, Connecticut. Yeah,
okay,
which again, you're staying out of those states.
yeah.
What? Okay, give us a horror story too. Got to
Uh,
balance it out with the good one.
that's gonna have to be Michigan,
Okay.
where we bought a note. It was a non-performing note. This was a long time ago when I was relatively new and a little more inexperienced, and
Sure.
bought a note. The house was only worth, I think, $30,000 to begin with.
Yeah.
Sure enough, we took back the property, and then it was in such disrepair. The city had gone in and placed additional liens on the property, and then also required us to get, whatever licenses in order to fix it up. But they wouldn't give us those licenses until the liens were paid off. So they're just being extremely difficult to work with.
Wow. How big were the liens they were placing on it?
I want to say it was like an additional $10,000.
For a
Like,
$30,000 house.
exactly.
How
It was significant.
how much were you owed?
On that one, that was one early on where everything was underwater. So
Yeah.
the balance owing was, I don't know, $50,000, $60,000. Like, it was far above what the property value.
What'd you end up doing? Did you just walk away?
We did. We ended up just walking
Yeah.
away. Luckily, I wasn't into it for too much. I think we were only
Yeah.
into it for 11 or 12,000, something like that.
Yeah. Boy, that's really tough,
Happen
especially when
often.
the city makes it worse. You know,
Yeah.
and what did they end up doing? Tearing it down or just letting it sit there and trying to actually they would, my guess is they probably go, okay, we're into this, like since Nathan's walking away, anybody
Yeah.
who comes up with 11,000, they can go ahead and have the house. Something
Yeah.
like that. Boy, I'll
But it's
tell you. Okay.
frustrating. Like, we're there. We're trying to make it better. We're trying to help. But
Yes, you are. Tell you what, Nathan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Here, we're going to go to our thoughts for the day here. So Joan Rivers said, people say money is not the key to happiness, but I always figured if you have enough money, you can make your own key, right? Or have a key made. And Mark Twain said, never put off till tomorrow what you can do the day after tomorrow just as well. All right, tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long.